Please can you remind me if you'll be so kind, staring out into space, asking God to hear my case, trying to think of all things past. How long will my memory last? The purple angel, purple angel, purple angel, you're next to me.
Well, hi everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I am the founder of Alzheimer Speaks. And I created Alzheimer Speaks to basically raise everyone's voice and to try to help connect people to the resources, tips, and tools that they need. And I'm really excited about our show today because we are going to be talking with a handful of the AlzAuthors who are changing the world one book at a time. But before I go there, we always get new listeners, so I'm just going to tell people a little bit more about what we do and why we do what we do. Bottom line, Alzheimer Speaks is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care culture from crisis to comfort around the world. And we also help companies expand their brand footprint by leveraging all of our platforms. You see, we've got the radio show, but we do some video interviews called Dementia Chats. We've got a blog, YouTube channel. We just think it's really important to use all means of communication, way past the written and verbal word. We like to be able to meet people in person as well, and so it's a very fun and exciting time. You have lifted our presence in the world by your likes, your clicks, and your shares, and I hope that you'll continue to do that, especially with this show, because this group is really making a difference, and they can, by spreading the word, hopefully they'll be able to come to your neighborhood and your libraries and conferences as well. So make sure, to like and click and share, because there is power in just those few seconds in terms of helping raise awareness regarding dementia and getting help in people's hands. If you'd like to call in and ask a question or make a comment, you can do that at 323-870-4602. I will try to get to you, but we do have a pretty packed show today with a lot of information to get out. And I always like to say to our audience, you could be our next guest, because everyone is welcome on Alzheimer Speaks. If you are living with a diagnosis, or maybe you're having symptoms and haven't been diagnosed, a family member, a business professional, an author, a playwright, a movie director, a musician, a researcher, you name it, everyone is welcome. Now, I do want to give just a couple of shout-outs to a few organizations before I introduce our guests here. The first one is Jennifer Fitzpatrick. She is doing a virtual book club called Cruising Through Caregiving, and it's free, and it's been running since May 15th and will go till August 28th. And you can find out more information about her book club if you just go to my main homepage on AlzheimersSpeaks.com. Same with Alzheimer's Disease International. They are pushing out a survey. They want to know, what do you think about dementia? Because they're trying to help global leaders push what truly is needed forward. Also, Stall Catchers is a platform where you can actually analyze real Alzheimer's research and help push things forward. And all three of those you can find on AlzheimersSpeaks.com main page. Last, I'm just going to give a shout out to Dementia Action Alliance. They just had their conference in Georgia. I was not able to attend, but I heard that it was a great success, and so that's always fun to hear. And they give many people with dementia the opportunity to speak, and many business professionals and medical professionals in the industry's minds and attitudes towards the disease change through those conversations. So let me first introduce you to Jean Lee. Jean lives with her husband in a small town in Ohio, and she's 20 minutes from anything. Although she worked full-time while her parents were ill, she's now retired after 22 years of teaching elementary school. Her children are married with children of their own, and so now she has 5 grandchildren, which are her greatest blessings. Welcome, Jean. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Lori. Thank you so much for having us.
I'm excited to get you all introduced so we can get this conversation rolling. Thanks for joining us, Jean. Next, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Kathryn Harrison. Kathryn has an interesting blend of science, marketing, and art skills, and she has worked for over a decade as a communications professional. And she has been in writing and illustrating, and she put together this beautiful book that has just been so well received called Weeds in Nana's Garden. Kathryn leveraged all of her different abilities, to pull this book together, and it's really kind of stirred her experience with her mother's dementia in terms of doing this. And so she created this book to really help support families understand dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and to also help raise awareness. So welcome, Kathryn. How are you today?
Hello. Well, thanks for having me, Lori. I can feel the excitement. It's so great to be here.
Yeah, I know we were all on before we went live, and there was a very strong chatter. I'm surprised we didn't blow up the lines, actually. So this is gonna be a fun conversation. Next, I want to introduce Anne Campanella, and she is the author of Motherhood: Lost and Found, which is a memoir. And Anne is a former newspaper and magazine journalist, and she also is a poet and a horsewoman. She currently, or recently I should say, joined the AlzAuthors team to help expand their presence on Facebook. So welcome, Anne. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having us, Lori, and I feel the excitement too. Can't wait to get started.
Wonderful. Thank you for taking the time with us today. Next, we've got Vicki Tapia with us, and she is the author of a family memoir of dementia, Somebody Stole My Iron, which was a finalist in the 2015 High Plains Book Awards. She is part of the administrative team for AlzAuthors. And when she's not involved in that endeavor, she is diligently working on finishing up the edits to her next project called Forgive Maggie, which is another book which is going to feature her great-grandmother's tumultuous life. So that sounds really like an interesting read. So welcome, Vicki. How are you?
I'm great. I'm glad to be here, Lori.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Next, we're getting there. We just have a couple more to go, guys. So next, I want to introduce to you Marianne Sciucco. And Marianne is not a nurse who writes, but a writer who happens to be a nurse, is how she explains it. She is the lover of words and books. She's dreamed about becoming an author when she grew up, but she became a nurse to avoid poverty and get that paycheck going like the rest of us. Marianne later brought her two passions together, and now she writes about the intricate lives of people struggling with health and family issues. So welcome, Marianne.
Hi, Lori. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Yeah, I am very excited to have everybody pulled together. So thank you for joining us. Next, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to Irene Frances Olson. And Irene, I'm trying to find her on my list here because I'm almost worried that I've lost her. Oh, there she is. Okay. We've got so many, I have to scroll down too far. Irene was her father's caregiver during his struggle with Alzheimer's disease, and she said she'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. And I sure know what that feels like because I dealt with it with my own mom for 30 years. Having previously worked in memory care, she wasn't new to the disease, nor was her family immune. Irene hopes to make a difference in the lives of others by writing novels and encouraging and supporting those who just might need that little extra support and help them meet the needs of another who happens to be in their corner. And I just think that's a really cool way to look at things. So welcome, Irene. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm representing Western Washington today in the Seattle area where I'm at.
Wonderful. Well, I know lots of people out there, so I'll give them a big wave and hello from the show here. Well, I am going to start with our first question, and I'm going to point that to Vicki. Vicki, my understanding is now that the AlzAuthors, and this is just miraculous, is celebrating their 4th anniversary. Can you tell us all how the heck have you guys reached, 200 authors? I mean, that's just an incredible collaboration that you guys have pulled together.
We would have never guessed, Lori, when we started this, where it was going to take us. It's amazing. I'm not sure I can tell you, but I'm going to give it a go. We started 3 of the original. There were 5 of us who started a collaborative promotional effort, like back in 2015. And we were authors of books about dementia. And 3 of those authors are still involved. That would be Jean, Marianne, and myself. Jean from Ohio, Marianne from New York, and myself from Montana. It's amazing what technology can do. We decided to promote together, and when the 3 of us saw a potential, realizing that through this collaboration we were actually raising an understanding of dementia and what it involves, and also lending support through the books that we've written to people whose lives have been touched in some way by dementia or caregiving. And we thought, what if we not only promoted our own books, but what if we promoted other books about dementia? If a person's going to read 1 book about dementia, they're probably going to read 2 or 3. So we thought, perhaps we could collate all these resources in one place. And our website was born a year later in June of 2016. We had this brilliant idea that we would feature a new author of a book about dementia every day during the work week for the whole month of June in honor of Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. And we did. And at the end of it, we were so stoked, so pumped. We still had authors left we could approach. We thought, this is going great. We didn't think we could keep up 1 a day. So we thought, well, we could probably do 1 a week and see how far it takes us. And that's what we've been doing ever since. And people say, well, how do you find the books? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, it is amazing, because I remember when I started on this journey with my mom, there wasn't anything written, or you would go to the library and they would just kind of look at you and you wouldn't even know what section to go to. Do you go to self-help or do you go to the medical?
Yes.
I mean, we have come so far just in the past 10 years, but really very far, just even in the last, I would say 3, when it comes to literature available and people realizing this needs to be its own category. And there has to be a way to slim this down to get to people. So I remember when you were featuring, that 1 person a day during that month, and I was personally just so excited, and I'm still very excited seeing how many authors are coming to light and how many people are putting their thoughts down and their lessons learned, to share with others. I just think it's such a comforting mass to families, talking about real life issues, not just medical speak, which a lot of times families, I personally don't think can relate to. They just want to know, how are John and Sue doing it, and to talk about
it is
sides.
incredible, though. I found the same thing. There were hardly any books. They were mostly medically based, and I was looking for a story about a real person experiencing what I was going through. I needed the support. So, when we started, we scoured Amazon looking for authors that we could approach. We would direct message them on Twitter. We would write them on Facebook and see, bring them to us that way. And once in a while we'd get contacted by an author. And what's amazing now, 3 years later, is most of our authors find us, and we spend much less time having to scour around on Amazon's bestseller list. Like I said, we're looking for books that speak to our audience in an authentic way, that everyday, real-life person. And also, I would just like to quickly say we also have bloggers, not just authors of books, but bloggers. Usually our bloggers are right in the middle of it all, and they're blogging about it. And they write some very, very powerful messages for our readers. So we're glad to include them along with our other authors.
Wonderful. Well, that's fantastic. I know when I go out and speak, I mention you guys, and I mention here in Roseville in our grassroots dementia-friendly group, we developed a thing called Memory Minder Kits that is now in our Ramsey County libraries, and a lot of people have duplicated those around the country now. And
it's terrific.
It's so nice to be able to see, because they don't know where to go either to find these books, and so they've developed one for early, mid, and late stages, FTD, Lewy body, and now they're developing one for children.
Wow.
And they make these kits up. So there's educational information for the caregiver, and then there's usually some kind of engagement piece, if it's music or puzzle or whatever, in these packets, which is pretty cool. So I can hook you guys up too with Carol. I think I may have already, but I would be more than glad to give you Carol Jackson's information with our Ramsey County library, because she's published articles in the library system about what she's developed and how that's used as well. And your books would be fabulous for that. So, but I'm going to move on with our conversation, because we have so much to talk about, and I'm going to throw a question to Anne next. Anne, your books have traveled on 2 dementia-friendly cruises, and most recently you went to the Caribbean. Can you tell us a little bit about, how did you pull together and create an inspirational collection to go on those cruises?
Absolutely. I would love to. We created the first AlzAuthors Inspiration Collection for the Connecting Circles of Care and Building Bridges of Hope Cruise and Conference that was produced by Lisa Sciucco this past April. And she, along with Danny Hutcherson and the Klein Center for Dementia Support and Grandparenting Research, Danny was our sponsor with the Klein Center. And she and Danny worked together to come up with the idea of creating an inspiration collection, which was basically a selection of our books that would be specifically tailored to meet the needs of those who were on the cruise. So we ended up selecting particular books, like books about Lewy body dementia, books for spouses or male or female caregivers, books about caring for parents or grandparents, even books written by people with early onset dementia, so that the cruise participants could actually take home something special that would both be kind of a companion to them and a reminder of the whole event of being on a cruise, because the whole cruise experience really was just such a visionary thing and a wonderful idea to bring hope to people, and we were just thrilled to be a small part of that. And Marianne actually went on the cruise, and she can tell you a little bit more.
Oh, okay. Marianne, I'm going to pull you into the conversation if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit more about your experience too on the cruise.
Oh, I'd love to. One of my favorite topics. I love to cruise. And when I was presented with the idea of going on the dementia cruise, at first I was a little skeptical because I was unsure of how the with Alzheimer's and dementia would manage being on a cruise. If you've been on a cruise before, you know that there's a lot of commotion and busyness and noise and lights and a million things to do. But the people who came on the cruise were pretty much in the early stages of their disease with their spouse. It was all couples. And all of them were pretty much, I like to say, on their own power. So they were able to get around pretty much without much of assistance. And they had a wonderful time. Every morning we had a different educational program for them, one or two. And they would show up in the meeting room around 9:30, and they had snacks and coffee and everything, and we would get down to business. And there was a variety of speakers available, including myself. I told the story of AlzAuthors. But we had Danny Hutcherson there, and he was there to talk about financial matters that are of importance to people with dementia. And we had a researcher, Loretta Anderson, who came and talked about brain health, nutrition, and other issues like that. Christy Turner was there from the Dementia Sherpa. She's a caregiving expert, and she was there to offer advice on that. And there were several other speakers as well. In the evening, we all got together. We had dinner, and there was a lot of social time. And on port days, we'd get off the ship and visit the ports, and we could see the couples with dementia, that they were out and about and enjoying themselves as well. So I would recommend that. It's a wonderful getaway. It's good respite. When you're on a cruise, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to worry about cooking, cleaning, getting around. All that is done for you. All you have to think about is, what am I going to wear and what am I going to eat today? And it's a great way to make some memories. So we had a Facebook page, and there are a lot of really great pictures on that. And people are still talking about the cruise.
Oh, that's fantastic. I did a cruise in 2017, and it was one of those too where I had those concerns too about how's everybody going to do, but oh my gosh, some of them never went to bed barely. I mean, they were just up, and they had more energy than ever. They were just, They made such deep connections. And and I know Harry Urban just went on one where it was just a group of them that it empowered them to say, hey, we can travel on our own. We don't even have to go with a group. We can just go with a group of friends. We know how this works now, and so that was very fun. To be able to see that. But yeah, I think the cruise option is a wonderful, wonderful element for people. And how nice for you guys to be able to put a package together like that. That's absolutely fantastic, because I know we had some books donated as well when we did ours, and people really appreciated those extra resources. And then to know that you guys have this fabulous website people can go to really dive deep is just amazing. And given that, I'm going to go ahead and pull Kathryn back in, because my understanding is you guys have just updated your website. And so, Kathryn, what has changed with your website?
Oh, boy. So much has changed. And yeah, we launched in, I guess it was March of this year. So actually time flies, right? It just feels like it just launched. But when we started, we never thought, as we have talked about, that we would be so big. So our site was limited in our functionality. Our site was limited visually. We had a lot of white space and not a very updated look. So it was time for us to look for a change, and so we went through the process of building a new site where we could have not only a new site look, but also a new site platform that gave us access to better functionality. And we wanted our site visually to be more of a representation of the big heart and soul that's in this organization that you keep hearing from the voices behind this amazing venture that just keeps on growing. And also because we are now more than the website, as you have talked about a little bit with the cruise, and there's other things that we're going to talk about later, it made sense to make sure we had a site that was robust enough to handle more than what we've been doing. So after several months, we have a new host, a new system, a new look, and we launched. And actually, interestingly, we have just had to make the decision that we have to upgrade our hosting plan again because we need more space, more traffic, more speed for all the traffic that we're getting on our site.
What a wonderful problem to have. Now, if somebody goes to your site, can you just kind of maybe highlight a few things that they can grab off of there, what they'd be able to see?
Sure. Like currently, our big part of our site is that we have a blog, and the blogs, as we mentioned, we have a new post every week that profiles a new resource, either a book or a blog that's available, and it tells the story behind that book or blog from the personal perspective of the creator. So every week you'll find a new story and a new resource on our homepage, and then all the past blogs the past posts where there's 100 plus and growing, you'll see those stories there. And we also have a bookstore which has access to all the books to purchase them directly from Amazon, so that you can find, so if you read about a book that you're interested in, you can click on the bookstore, find that book, and then go and purchase that book, which actually brings me to kind of some upcoming functionality that we are going to be doing now that we have our new site on our new platform and have new tools available. We are looking to really increase the robustness of the searching capability on our site. You know, when we had 50 books, it wasn't a big deal. You could just scroll through the books and find them, no problem. But now that we have so many books, we need better tools so that people can find the books that best suit their needs. So that's something that I'm going to be working on and launching for us. And the other thing that we're going to be adding is a calendar, because we have more and more AlzAuthors events going on. We want to make sure people can see those happening and find out about them. So that's also coming soon.
Oh, you know, I'm going to add to that. I am working with some guys. They've got a company called ProValence, and if you go to AlzheimerSpeaks.com, there's a big resource tab, and they have developed the first dementia resource directory in the world. And one of the things that I've told them that they need to add to this is still, we're waiting on a couple more updates to kick in, because people will be able to geo-search, and it has information from housing to books, videos, radio, finances, medications, people. So if they're looking for speakers or doctors, or there's all different kinds of categories. But one I told them that they absolutely had to add was an events category. And with that, one of the things that I like about that resource directory is once you put just one card in, you now get a whole portal that you can put on your website to help guide people. And these calendar cards that can be purchased can be changed out. And it's very inexpensive, but it might be a place where you guys want to position yourself, because their goal is to get this into hospitals and clinics, because one of the biggest complaints is, you know, people go in and get diagnosed and they're not given any place to go. Any resources to be had, and that might work nicely for you guys to be able to position yourself in something like that, so even more people become aware of what all you guys have to offer. Just a thought.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, amazing. We love these new ideas, because there's, you know, with all these new ideas is where we just keep growing and keep expanding what we can offer, and which actually was something else that was happening while we were doing this website, is we were looking at the future of AlzAuthors, and we were working strategically on where we want to go. And that work, which I think Irene's going to talk about next, that was happening concurrently with the web redesign, was really helpful in driving what functionality and what look and vision we see for the site itself. So it's always great to look out to the future and keep looking at different ideas for what we can do and where we can go. So thank you.
Exactly. Well, that is a perfect roll-in to my next question that I was going to ask Irene, and that is to talk a little bit about, Irene, you've been, my understanding is, working with some consultants to develop kind of your mission statement and your goals and, what are you guys going to be in the future? And that's got to be just fun to be looking at that kind of development.
It is very fun, and it also brings about fear of the unknown. But what you said is so true. A small business startup consultant who was familiar with my Alzheimer's story through my novel, Requiem for the Status Quo, she approached us, and she helped the team, not just me, the team solidify what we had operated under since AlzAuthors' inception. I mean, she helped us put together our mission, vision, our core commitments. And, if you think about it, it was easier to think on these matters and to feel them in our collective hearts. And it was far more difficult to put them down on paper. We had probably a half a dozen or more Google Hangout video calls with this consultant, and trying to parse these different words and have them make sense and really say what our hearts mean. And if I could just try to paint a picture, imagine 6 writers, that's the management team, quibbling over commas, singular versus plural nouns, singular versus plural nouns, adverbs and adjectives, semicolons or colons, that with those different little quibbling matters carried their own nuances of meanings. And so our consultant respected our craft, our writing craft, and over the course of about 3 months, she guided us to the most accurate, heartfelt summary of who we are and what we do. And I'll just mention just a couple of those points just to give you and our listeners an idea of what was in our hearts, but then could finally be on paper and therefore on the internet, etc. Our vision, a primary focus of our vision, Lori, is to lift the silence and stigma of Alzheimer's and other dementias, because as anyone who's involved with anyone personally or professionally in the dementia Alzheimer's industry, we know that there is still a stigma. We'd like to lift that, and we want people to be comfortable talking about it. Another thing that comes into play is honoring the personal experiences of those impacted by Alzheimer's and other dementias. And part of lifting the stigma and getting rid of the silence around Alzheimer's is to advance the understanding of this disease through the collective knowledge of those authors that become members of, if you want to call it, the AlzAuthors community, which is the AlzAuthors community is those of us who are sharing our dementia stories to light the way for others.
Oh, that's
so I mean,
great.
it was quite an experience to do that, but then we weren't done. The same consultant eventually broached the subject of AlzAuthors becoming a nonprofit with tax-exempt status. She explained that doing that, becoming a nonprofit, would bolster AlzAuthors and provide a flexibility that our efforts thus far had yet to experience. And a small part of that flexibility centers around our own personal financial capabilities, because up to this point, for the most part, we financed everything out of our own personal bank accounts. And we haven't minded doing that in the least. We are very generous with our time and, if need be, our finances. But the important aspect that really resonated with us is, how can we do more? How can we do more for an Alzheimer's community that only grows every day? So after much guidance from this consultant and through a little bit of pushback from the rest of from us AlzAuthors managers, we became convinced of the appropriateness of traveling down that tax-exempt path. And we discovered that that same path is filled with, it's all legal schmeagle, right? And it's accounting and it's all these types of things. We discovered that it's filled with potholes, roadblocks, legal language which seems so ambiguous to those who aren't legal-minded. It would mostly scare off most people. But we went down the path, Lori, and we did receive State of Washington nonprofit corporation status earlier this month.
So exciting.
And now, it is exciting, and now we're on the brink of applying for 501c3 status with the feds. So it's a tremulous time, but it's exciting nonetheless because, you know, we've already been introduced to the possibilities that being a nonprofit and working with other nonprofits, of which there are many surrounding this subject matter, we know what it'll mean towards expanding our commitment to encourage the needed support caregivers need worldwide. Mm-hmm. So it's a big milestone, and we're hoping that it goes without a hitch, but our full goal in doing this, and this is what the consultant realized in understanding our story, is that we want to expand our influence. We want to expand how we can help others and bring others to a place where they're receiving, as you talked earlier, a few of you, about finding the resources that they need.
Yep. So important. That is so much work to go through, that whole nonprofit thing. So kudos to you guys. I have not done it myself, but I think it's absolutely fantastic. So I want to move on here, and I want to go to Marianne and find a little bit more information about an anthology that you guys, or that you published for the first year of your posts in like Kindle ebooks and paperback and audio book and all of those types of things. So what's going on with all of that?
Well, Lori, we had the idea that it might be helpful for the caregivers to have a book that they could hold in their hand or have it on their phone or their e-reader or even listen to as they went about their day, where they could explore all of the different authors and the books represented on the AlzAuthors blog. So we took the first year's blog posts, and we had 58 authors, and we reproduced the stories that are posted on our website into this book with, you know, different chapters broken down according to categories such as caring for a parent, caring for a spouse, books for children and teens, memoir, how-to caregiver guides, all of that. And it features each author telling the story behind their story and how the reader can find that book if it's a book that they think might be helpful to them, and also the social media links and websites for each person. So our hope is that people will be able to use this book as a guidebook, maybe to find even more resources that might work for them. It's a great gift if somebody has a caregiver in their life who needs a little more guidance or support. Definitely an excellent gift. It can be given to people coming into care homes, into memory care, assisted living facilities. It really has a lot of different uses, and it's done pretty well. We had the audio book. That was the last piece that came out, and we had a talented narrator, Matilda Joy, do that for us. And it was interesting because after I had hired her for that job, she revealed that her mother-in-law had Alzheimer's as well. So it's really amazing how Alzheimer's is all around us. Every time I meet someone new, they usually have somebody in their life that's affected. So that was very encouraging with putting together that first anthology. So we decided to do a second from our second year post, and that's in the final stages of revision right now. It should be released within the next week or two.
Wow, that's exciting.
It's very exciting.
All of the stuff that you guys are doing is just going to be so helpful to so many people. It's just unbelievable, the resources, and I just love how the internet has kind of connected us all together for these joint forces, and you just see people connecting that probably never would have connected without that main source
absolutely.
To begin
Absolutely.
with.
I would like to mention that the anthology is available on Amazon, and it's also available in just about all of the different bookstores online, or you can go to your local bookstore, and if they don't have it in stock, you can request a copy.
Okay, wonderful. Good to know. Well, Jean, I'm going to pull you in because we haven't talked to you for a little while. And I want you to talk a little bit more about, you are doing some things with elder care attorneys and financial advisors and long-term care advisors. What's going on with that in all the books?
Lori, it's been so interesting because 4 years ago we started out as our own individual entities, our own books of grief and pain and brokenness. And by finding one another online, AlzAuthors was created, and we began to seek out these books. And as you said, we found that we were changing the world one book at a time. And then as we've grown, and as Kathryn said, we've become more than a website. And within that, the people who have read about the authors that we promote on our website, they've thought about how can my industry use these books. And so our benefactor for our cruise, Danny Hutcherson from the Klein Center for Dementia Support and Grandparent Research, first of all approached us saying that he had purchased over 100 of our authors' books, 100 different books to have in his financial planning practice. And when he had a family come in that was facing Alzheimer's or dementia with a loved one, he would give them one of our books that seemed to match their situation. And in communicating that to us, we found a new avenue for our books. We thought, wow, this really could work in the offices of elder care attorneys or financial advisors, or as you say, Lori, when someone is given a diagnosis but no resources. So our books, we see our books now coming out of the website and coming to real places to actually be handed to people, given to people, and especially the anthology, because that includes the first anthology, 58 personal stories. So we're just thrilled that other people have determined our direction in how this gathering of books can be used. And I know Anne wants to tell you then a bit about how our traveling libraries have developed.
Yeah, I was just thinking when you were talking about this, it's like, every hospital should have a little, in their neurological centers, a library where people can go and have those resources and purchase them and let them, when they come back from appointments, they can just switch them out. And
yes.
People would probably donate other ones that they've already read to share with others. But, we got to get creative on all of this stuff and get this information out. So, well, let's go. You said Anne was going to talk about traveling libraries. Let's go to her next, since you had mentioned that, and we'll hear a little bit more on that. So, Anne, if you wouldn't mind, tell us what you've learned and what you'd like to teach us all about traveling libraries and how you guys are working with that right now.
I would love to, Lori. Traveling libraries have become one of my passions. I would say our first traveling library began as a pilot project in North Carolina, and that's where I am. It probably grew out of two things. One was our work with Danny Hutcherson and creating the Inspiration Collection and discussing, he basically has a library of Alzheimer's and dementia resources. And we thought, well, we could have a library. And last summer, we partnered with the Alzheimer's Association Western Carolina chapter in Charlotte for an event, for their dementia education event, and we had an AlzAuthors table, a book table. And before that event, I put out the call to our authors to say, if anyone would like to donate a book, we're going to have this table, and we will have them out for display during the day, and at the end of the day, we will pass them on to caregivers. And our authors were incredibly generous, and books were coming into my mailbox like 2 and 3 a day, and it was like Christmas every day for a book lover like I am and all of our team is. And it became a very emotional experience because as I laid these books out on my table, it was the first time, even though I'd been working with authors and working with their books online, I had not had the opportunity to hold them and touch them. And suddenly I had all of these physical books representing so many stories of people who had gone through the challenges and the difficult circumstances of living with Alzheimer's. And I just felt both overwhelmed and deeply connected with these authors. And I thought, oh my goodness, I would love for this to be an opportunity all of our caregivers could have. And so I thought, well, I'll go ahead and ask, see if anybody is interested. The team got behind this and said, sure, go for it. And we put the word out, and once again, our authors donated books. We started the first traveling library in North Carolina. We had an event in March, I believe, and we just had one in June where Barbara Ivy, Malia Klein, Marianne Drummond, Frank Morelli, and Cinia Owensby, all AlzAuthors, were actually present, which just made the event even more special. It was a dementia education event, and we had a table. And so the table offered caregivers the opportunity to peruse all the titles, and we could send them to our website and say, you know, anything that you want to order, it's right here, and we had information to pass out. And it has just been so wonderful to see people holding and touching books and being able to tell each one about, because we're so familiar with the management team is familiar with the stories, we can tell people this story fits your situation. This will be a support for you. And once the North Carolina library got started, Jean started one in Ohio, and Marianne started one in New York. And just this past week, Irene Olson has started one in Washington State. And Marianne had an event during the longest day at her local library, and we saw some pictures from that, and it was just looked like it was a fantastic event. So we are really just thrilled to be able to put these resources in the hands of caregivers. It's just such a gift.
It's a cool idea. It would be, especially once you get to be, you know, your nonprofit status, it would be cool to get a grant and then to see if you could even set something like that up with these dementia-friendly communities that are popping up and let
Absolutely.
them. Because I can see, like, even with our group in Roseville, we get together almost every month and do an educational program, and we have resources in the back, and that would just be another nice addition to be able to have for people. And, yeah, very exciting, very exciting.
Yes. one of the things that we're learning is that people, we are learning from others what we can offer. It's like, we have our limited view, and then other people tell us, oh, you guys could do this, or, we want you to do this. And suddenly our view just keeps expanding and expanding. And we're so excited that we're going to be partnering with the Alzheimer's Association again this summer, and they have basically said, we want you there every time we do a conference. And so we're just thrilled to be able to have that table and let people see what's available for them.
Well, it's kind of silly not to, for them. I mean, it just makes so much sense. So much sense. I should connect you with Mary Beth Lewis out in New Jersey. She would, I think, be really interested in something like that. I think all of them probably would be, actually. But that is wonderful. I want to hear Jean's story about her traveling library, and if you don't mind adding to the story, Jean.
Absolutely, Lori. About 80 of our authors have sent me their books, and I've taken them to some care homes, and people have just found the collection to be so interesting. And then my own local Alzheimer's Association, I volunteered on their walk committee for about 5 years, and they saw pictures that we had posted of Anne's Alzheimer's Association event in North Carolina, and they became convinced that that's something that could be advantageous and sought after in Ohio. So in my East Ohio chapter, they said, would you do 3 of these walks for us? And I really could only handle doing 2. But our traveling library, our 80 books will be at 2 of those Alzheimer's walks, one in Medina, Ohio, and one in Akron, Ohio. And in addition to that, we will be donating our anthology to all of the grand champions.
Wow.
So that's just so exciting to get our work into other hands and have it be seen and valued as, more than just one book, but a huge growing collection of wonderful books.
Oh, fantastic. Marianne, I'm going to have you talk about yours that you just got involved with, too, if you don't mind.
We are thinking about doing an online book club. So this is going to be something that's very exciting. Obviously, we have all the books and the authors to keep us very busy for a couple of years. And it would be something that people could tune into. They could read the book ahead of time, or perhaps just tune in to listen to the discussion and maybe get a little bit of respite. But it's just another way for people to get some valuable information and some insights with some coping skills or even entertainment. Sometimes the books are entertaining as well. So we're really looking forward to that. We're going to be working with another organization in Alzheimer's world, which we're not free to disclose at this time, but it's a big one, and we're excited about it.
Wonderful. Well, that's good. Now, you've also got some other things with your nonprofit that you're discussing, like doing a podcast and stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. The podcast would be a similar thing where we would be able to kind of make the blog alive and interview our authors, and they can tell their story behind the story and offer caregiver tips. Mainly what we're looking for is for people to find somebody else that's going through a similar situation. And we want people to know that if that person made it, I can make it too. So the point of the podcast would be to have a friendly visit with someone else who has been there and made it through and can offer some guidance and support for people who are on the journey right now, and maybe they're not having a really good time of it.
Yep.
So it helps give the author exposure for their book, as well as to the caregiver to learn that the resource is out there.
Wonderful. Now, would you be doing just audio podcast, or would you be doing a video, or haven't thought that far?
Well, we haven't really gotten that far yet. I think it might be a video. We're considering a platform that was made available to us, so we still need to. We're in the research stages right now to find out if this is a good fit for us and who's going to do it and how much time is it going to take and is it going to be have any costs associated. We haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay, I would highly recommend the Zoom platform. It's pretty easy to use, and a lot of people with dementia utilize that already. And it's a little bit more stable, I think, than Skype and some of the others, and not as complicated as Adobe and things like that. So that's just my 2 cents worth. Because a lot of times, if you're trying to attract people with dementia and their care partners, people with dementia, say that they really need to be able to see the person to be able to take everything in, because they're reading lips and facial expressions and things like that. And then if there's drawings or illustrations or even just book covers, those things can be shown, and I think they tie in personally, sometimes a little bit more, seeing you, and they always have the opportunity to just listen to the audio. You could do video and split it off 2 ways too. So if that helps at all. Well, I can't believe our time has just flown by, and we've got 3 minutes left. So, Marianne, is there anything else that you want to say? I'm going to just hit everybody real quick and see if there was any last minute things you want to toss in.
I would just encourage everyone to take a look at AlzAuthors.com. You can look at our bookstore. All of our books are available and categorized to make it easy for you to find the one that might be the story that you need. And they all link to the Amazon store, so you could pick one up pretty easily. Right now we're running a book sale for Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. So if you go to the website, you'll see that on the main page. And a lot of the books are on sale for 99 cents, and some of them are even free. And we're offering a raffle as well. So if someone, you could enter the raffle and you could win one of the books.
Okay, wonderful. Irene, any last comments from you?
I just really enjoyed my time here, and I hope you all enjoyed my grandson walking into my office and saying "Mamo." Part of my full-time job is watching our grandson several days a week, and we absolutely love doing it. And he missed me, so he came into my office. So, but that's life.
Yep.
But thank you again, Lori. And the future looks grand for AlzAuthors, but even more importantly, I hope the future looks grand and grander for the Alzheimer's community.
Okay, great. Jean, how about you? Anything you'd like to say in wrapping up?
I think in wrapping up, I'd just like to say that we all have concluded we came together as individual authors at a point of brokenness, and we shared vulnerability, which is difficult to do through our writing. And having done so and come together, now we have this resource of AlzAuthors to offer as healing for others whose lives are impacted by Alzheimer's and dementia.
Great, thank you. And Vicki, how about you? Any last comments? We've got just about a minute left.
A lot of miles can separate us, but thank goodness for technology, which has allowed us to feel so deeply, deeply connected. We didn't meet in person for the first time until last November, so we have formed relationships, strong relationships through cyberspace.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kathryn, and then I want to get to Anne, too.
The community that exists on AlzAuthors will make anyone that's in this journey, right in the heart of it, hard days, hard moments. If you go and read some of these stories, you will feel better, I guarantee it. People that have faced what you're facing and people that have learned and can share, and you won't be disappointed. All of us put so much heart into it, and the heart of people that are in this journey is there on these pages, on these websites, and on these books. You won't be disappointed.
Thank you. Anne, can you?
Yes,
We've
I
got
would love
10
to.
seconds, and I want to get in your URL too. So,
I just wanted to mention that we have a bloggers workshop coming up with the Western Carolina Chapter Alzheimer's Association event with Richard Creighton and Ann Balcom, and we're so excited about that. And we also have an AlzAuthors panel that will be speaking at the AWP Writers Conference in San Antonio, March 4th through 7th of next year, led by Tanya Ward Goodman. And
wonderful.
These are all...
Thank you so much. I want to plug the AlzAuthors. You go to AlzAuthors.com. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening today. We just ran out of time. Again, check out AlzAuthors.com. Bye now.
Hey everybody, Jared Sebestier, host of Retire Repurposed. This podcast is dedicated to help people transition into fulfilling and purposeful retirements. Retirement is a big life change. In fact, the two most dangerous years of a person's life are the year they were born and the year they retire. Few people could just flip the switch from working a career 30 or 40 plus years, retiring on Friday without methodical steps to living what we call a repurposed retirement. To listen now, search Retire Repurposed on your favorite podcast platform, Senior Resource, or Life Audio.